Tom Brady and Peyton Manning recently took a photo together and said, "Psych, like we were friends all along," and different things like that. It's more than people think. Some people get mad, like the people who love the Colts back in the day, like, oh, how can you take a picture with him? After the fact, it's fine. But now more and more players are taking pictures. It's become a jersey swap league. It's become a league where guys, high-five each other and hug each other after the game. They pray. Beforehand, these guys they were playing for their lives pretty much because, they didn't get paid a lot, so they had to win in order to live. Nowadays, these guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's gotten a little bit softer. And I'm not saying that's a good or inherently bad thing. I'm just saying it's different. That's all I'm saying. And, so this selfie with Tom Brady, it also means this. So, Tom Brady has been changing over the past year. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but he's been jumping off cliffs. He's been doing different things. I think he's finally gained the respect of Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, and he's earned that kind of just respect. I don't know how to better put it. And they trust him to make the right decisions, to, do different things. Because now he's a living legend. Before he had to prove it to everybody. Kind of like the, hey, I'm Tom Brady thing to everybody. He had to prove that he was the guy. But now it's become less and less of he needs to prove something and more, I'm the guy. And that's kind of put another chip on his shoulder. I'm the old guy. I'm the old guy here. I can still do it. I can still ball, and good for him. He's been posting things on Instagram like mocking of the Max Kellerman falling off the cliff, and because he wants to build a legacy for himself. He spent 20 years in the grind. 20 years more going into high school, college of in the grind. Now he's just trying to have fun with it. I don't blame him. He has his kids. He wants to enjoy his kids. And this is what I want to show with life. Not all the time you have to take things seriously. He's in that stage of his career where he can just do whatever he wants. And I really enjoy watching him. And it really does highlight the 5 stages of an NFL career that I really want to mention here. So your first years, you need to prove something to people. You go on your instincts. In college, you want to prove something that you're constantly trying to prove something. I want to be the guy. You trust your instincts. You're kind of tough with coaches. It really does depend on the quarterback. Generally, you're like, oh, I'm good. I can do it because you're born all your whole life saying you're the quarterback. Now with different guys like Daniel Jones and different less skilled guys that Daniel Jones was a 0-star recruit. But as far as the top echelon guys, they were constantly Heisman voting, best quarterback in their state. Kyler Murray, he was the best quarterback in Texas. He was a legend. But then it comes to the first couple years in the NFL, and they're all good. These guys are all here for a reason. They all have different backgrounds. They all need to feed their families. So then you start getting into the analytical phase. You get the right coach for yourself. And then you start preparing. Some coaches get their quarterback a little bit earlier. Some quarterbacks never get their coach, and it really is a sad thing to see with some players. And we'll see if that happens with Baker Mayfield. I'm concerned for that. But yeah, so then you finally get your coach, and they use your intellect sometimes. Aaron Rodgers switching plays up on the front. Peyton Manning, Eli Manning is really good at that. Tom Brady. Then after years and years, it's your peak of your ability. You can lift a team, and that's when you get your big contract. This is your prime. This is when you try to win Super Bowls. But then years and years later, the team can't pay your players much, and then you get to the Saints or the Chargers where you're losing year after year. And then eventually you get some good draft picks. You get your Joey Bosa's, you get your Marshawn Lattimore's, you get a bunch of players that are good, and then they're on rookie deals. And then you start playing better again, and then by that time, the quarterback is old, and he's already made his money, so maybe he takes a pay cut or two. And then it's that mogul stage. It's that last 2 or 3 years, Drew Brees trying to win it all. And then we kind of forget about that whole middle section because they weren't winning. And then it's kind of like when they start breaking records, when they start getting streaks, when it's like, oh, God, then you realize how great they actually were. And I want to highlight that some quarterbacks right now, we just got to realize how great they are. Your Matt Ryans, your Matt Staffords. They're in the prime. They're in the grind part of the year. They're in the part of their career where they're getting paid the most, but the team may not be great. Then you have quarterbacks like Carson Wentz who are getting the beginning of their prime years. They have that big contract. Russell Wilson's he's in the middle of his prime years, and you're going to start seeing the whole team struggle. And then towards the end of their career, then you get to the Tom Brady stage where it's just like they need to figure out life after football. For some people like Peyton Manning, it was TV commercials. For some people, they want to be GMs and they want to be owners. They want to be like the Derek Jeters. I can't really think of an example of a quarterback. John Elway. They want to position themselves for life after football. And football is not really that much of a commitment because at this point they have kids, they have money, and they think about like, I'm not going to take a hit in the pocket. And that's where these younger guys come in, and they kind of get a boost at the end by this like young guy who's coming up, and they kind of have that last couple years of success, and then you're just like that, your career's over. So those are the 5 main stages. You have the young phenom stage, then you have the humbling stage where you learn, you get your coach, then you have that middle of the career where you're getting paid a lot, and then the team starts to struggle. Then after years of struggling, you start getting good players, and then your team starts competing. And then there's the positioning for life after football. And it's kind of cool seeing where all these quarterbacks are in the different positions of these stages, because it really is interesting. I know there's some blips in the road, like with injuries, with not getting the right coach, with some quarterbacks aren't as good as we thought. Some of them fade out at like stage 2, like your Johnny Manziel's, who couldn't quite they couldn't quite be a phenom. They weren't good enough. Your Blake Bortles, some guys fade out then, and then other guys, didn't really do good in the beginning of their career, like Nick Foles. They skipped a couple stages, and now it's like a resurgence. He didn't have really good coaches until he got with Andy Reid, and then he moved back with the Eagles, and you finally had good coach, good management, and you go for some Super Bowl runs, and it's a fun thing to watch. So you could see, I could just picture different quarterbacks at different stages in their career, and yeah, it's quite interesting. It is, and then some teams get lucky and they find a quarterback in the 4th round, and then they get the transition is more quick, and yeah, it's a fun time. But next thing I want to mention is this: expectations. So in my next edition of BNA Weekly, BNA Sports Podcast, which this is the preview to, I like doing the preview on Saturday, I have a segment where I mention all the MVP candidates. I do a 30-minute segment, and I tell you what the best value bets are, and I put some money down on these teams. But expectations really do drive everything. It drives what we think about different things. It drives where we put our money. It drives your legacy. It drives our pretty much our society. So first of all, with expectations, we've seen that before. With MVPs, we've seen it before. That's why Patrick Mahomes probably won't win MVP twice. That's why the last guy to win MVP twice was Peyton Manning. And the second year he did it, he was way better in stats. We saw the other year, Matt Ryan puts up the same exact stats 2 years in a row. But he couldn't win MVP twice because there's always a more compelling storyline. There's always something different. We're looking for something different. We don't want the same storyline year after year, and that goes back to how we forget about a lot of quarterbacks in their primes, because it's the same thing year after year. But then after a while, it gets so long, it's just like, yeah, we really appreciate it, and then we put you on the cover of Madden. That's just what it is. We put Brett Favre on Madden in 2009 when it was like his 16th, 17th, 18th year in his career, because we appreciate his greatness. Same thing with Tom Brady. As they're doing it, each individual year isn't great, but collectively they're all great. But expectations really do drive everything, and not just with as far as MVP voting, because I think you guys get my point. I mean, Steph Curry was the MVP, and then he was probably the most improved player the year after, and he was a unanimous MVP. And another thing we expect is players to play with injuries, and because we've seen it, we've seen the MJ's flu game, we've seen guys play with torn ACLs, broken legs. But it's a different society now, and there's some players that do it. Now that's what makes them special, and then there are guys that don't do it. I mean, not everyone could be the A kid, the class who gets straight A, the guy who gets straight A's in the class. There was always going to be those DNF guys, and that's what shows, and that's what makes those great players even greater. In a communist society, everyone gets paid the same, and no matter what work they do, that means everyone's the same. No one's motivated. Everyone's just like, yeah, I'm the same as that guy. As far as skill level, I mean, they're inherently better stuff. They're inherently better painters. They're inherently better firefighters. They're inherently better football players, So expectation to play through injuries, not everyone can do it. Not everyone has the tough grit, and we shouldn't hold that against them. We should just only highlight the people who do and make it seem like they're really great. We don't know what these guys are dealing with. With Kawhi Leonard, with Kevin Durant, we really don't know. I've been watching this sports doctor on YouTube who's really great, but we really don't know about all these different players and what they're actually going through, what they're thinking about. We try to do it, and it's kind of unfair because everyone has their own opinion, everyone has their own platform to post different things, and it really does get through. Like before, it was you would say something to your friend, I mean, I guess word of mouth, but now I can DM Kevin Durant right now and say fuck you or something like that. I mean, that was kind of harsh, but I mean, I can do that. And so expectations to play with injuries. Another thing with expectations is that lifetime achievement award, which I don't get. You know, there's I forgot the pitcher's names because I suck with names. I'm gonna mention it so many times. I suck with names because I've been doing so much like studying about different players and stuff that I kind of forget people's names. Sorry, that's just me. I'm not really good with names. I forget people's names right away. But you know, Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees. You could have gave the MVP to Drew Brees for Lifetime Achievement Award. But that's what they said about this Giants pitcher. Like, oh, let's make him start in the All-Star game. So one guy made the All-Star game. He was like a rookie, and they're like, oh yeah, you'll make a bunch of free, All-Star games. Let's give it to this pitcher who's in the back end of his career, but he kind of just made it the All-Star game because of legacy, and he might not be back here. This is gonna be his last year, so it was like, yeah, why not do it? And then that guy never made it to another All-Star game, and that's just the ebbs and flows of it. I did this once. So it was cross-country year. I was in 11th grade, and my friend who was a senior ran all 4 years. I only ran 2 years, and I felt kind of guilty at that point because I did kind of slack off during the summer. I went to New York. I was kind of messing around, didn't really run too much, and I felt like I kind of hurt the team. But we still made it to states, and I felt like I was in the best shape I could have been. I didn't really put those long summer hours in like I did. I ended up doing my senior year. But it motivated me. I allowed my friend to join this, to run the state meet because he never did it before. It was the second time in our school history that we made it to the state meet, and I said, you know what, just run it. Like, I feel bad. I was a little bit injured and out of shape too, so I wouldn't have ran that well. And I told my friend, I'm like, this is something you'll never forget, so I'll do it. You know, I wasn't expecting really anything in return, but you know, in the back of your hand, you are. But my coach always mentioned it over the past couple years, and that motivated me to get back there. I knew with our team, even though we were stacked, like we could have been stacked, not with like great runners like in the upper 15s for a 5K. I'm talking about like mid 16ers and stuff like that. We would have been our 1-to-5 split, which if you don't know, cross country is measured your number 1 runner to your number 5 runner. Depending on the meet, you usually have 7 runners, and then they take the score, kind of like golf, low score wins. But you know, our team was really, if you have a tight 1-to-5 split, especially if it's high, that's a good thing for you, and we really had that. But injury after injury and team after team, I took a gamble. I took a gamble of not being back there, but I was confident if I can work hard, I could do it. And I told my friend after that state meet, one of my friends who's on the team, I'm like, I'm gonna beat you next year. And at that point, he was number 2 on the team, and at that point he was starting to slack off. And I feel like I did a really good job my senior year of putting our team into a position to succeed, because it came to a point where all these guys that were kind of mid-tier junior varsity, I should have been on junior varsity, but a lot of people quit or got injured, but I ended up beating him in some races. I beat him in one race, but he was just coming off injury. Then 2 weeks later, I beat him again, and I got a PR, and I cried. I at the end of the race, I was so elated with emotion. But yeah, so expectations, they drive everything. You expect to be back there. You expect a player to do well again. Sometimes they end up not playing well. And I just want to tell you that little story because it kind of reminds me of the whole Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees thing. It could motivate him more than ever to come back if they say, you know, we're just going to give it to Drew Brees. And by the way, I don't understand the offensive player of the year and the MVP, how it's the same player sometimes. Just give it to somebody else. Obviously, the MVP is going to be the best offensive player if he's an offensive player, but come on, give it to somebody else. I don't get them some money, you know. But anyway, so the last thing I want to mention here is where I think the free agents are going to go. I just want to throw up my free agent predictions now because they were god-awful. I'm going to mention that in my edition of Being a Sports podcast again tomorrow. Make sure to watch it. So I predicted 80 going to the Knicks because I'm like, yo, that relationship is frayed. So I think right now, just brief, I want to get my opinions out. Don't really know a lot about basketball. My gut feeling is KD and Kyrie join the Nets. I'm not buying, even though I said Kyrie to the Lakers earlier. I think he joins the Nets. I think the Lakers get a bunch of role players and they get their, maybe even Boogie Cousins, but they get their guys, whoever that is. 40% of the league is free agents. I think Brook Lopez resigns. I think JJ Redick resigns because they really need a 3-point shooter. Who else? We have Tobias Harris. I think he's going to join the Denver Nuggets because they need a forward. You have a lot of centers and guards. We have Millsap, Jamal Murray, Jokic, and I think Tobias Harris can make this team like a sneaky good, and they can get them like a top 2-3 seed. I think right now Kawhi does a 2-year deal with the Raptors because he can't live there forever. I know he doesn't want a long-term deal there, but he's going to want to give a couple more years, especially this team. I wouldn't leave. This team has a great window. Paul Gasol, Siakam is going to be better, and he's just in a good situation, but I don't think he wants to live there long-term. I think they're going to give him load management. They saw this year that he could stay healthy with like 60 games, and I think he's going to do that. Play it safe, obviously. If he starts feeling an injury, don't play. And he can always go to the Lakers or the Clippers in years, maybe when LeBron leaves, because his dream is playing in Los Angeles, and it's hard to give up on a dream. It really is. It's hard to live your whole life and be like, I want to be a Laker. And but sometimes you have to play the winning game. I wouldn't surprise anything Kawhi Leonard does. If he joins the Miami Heat and tries to win with them, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. So there's that. And DeMarcus Cousins and Klay Thompson are probably re-signing with Golden State. The Golden State Warriors, I think, since KD leaves, they offered DeMarcus Cousins like a 2-year, $14-15 million deal. I'm not buying the Knicks thing. Who do the Knicks end up with? Kemba Walker obviously is probably going to go to the Celtics, which I predicted he would go to the Knicks. So we didn't get AD or Kemba. Right now, I'm thinking we stick with RJ. I just want to get guys who want to play for us. I want to get guys who enjoy the lore of MSG, not in for the money. Whoever that is, great. Again, don't really know too many names, so I'm going to stop mentioning it like I know what I'm talking about, because I kind of do, but I don't want to start rattling off names and like random, and if I hit on them, I'll be like, make a BNA sports podcast segment where like, oh, I was right, I knew this all along, even though it's a complete guess right now. But yeah, so I have different theories about free agency that I'm going to look forward to talking through next week, like what we learned. Like, should you target multiple free agents and kind of like date around? Or should you focus on one person and show them that they're the love of your life? Or can it be a thing where it's just like, oh, if I'm the love of your life, like, is nobody else coming? That type of thing. So there's that I think is really important and a really interesting thing. Oh, and I think Jimmy Butler does a sign and trade with the Miami Heat. And I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's it. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this little video that I made. I don't know. Again, if you have any opinions about anything I talked about in this video, please let me know in the comment section down below. Let's start a conversation, because I think the conversations are fun. Because it's funny looking back on all these conversations years and years. It's like, no way the Patriots are winning the Super Bowl this year, and no way Tom Brady's going to win a Super Bowl ever again. He wins 4 or 3 in a couple of years. It's just great to even look back. So I've been trying to make videos with more replayability. So that's the thing that I'm going to try to stress. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy this video, because I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, BNA Sports Podcast, the best podcast out there. No, just kidding. Bye, guys.